Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Narrative structures in discourse analysis. Narrative structures in discourse analysis focus on how stories are organized and how they function in communication. Narratives are central to human experience, allowing individuals to make sense of events, construct identities, and convey meaning within specific social and cultural contexts. In discourse analysis, studying narrative structures helps researchers uncover how language is used to shape reality, communicate ideologies, and reinforce or challenge social norms. Narratives in discourse are not limited to personal storytelling. They extend to media, politics, institutional communication, and everyday interactions. Analyzing narrative structures involves examining the patterns, functions, and roles of storytelling in discourse, from how events are sequenced to how characters and conflicts are portrayed. 1. The role of narratives in discourse. Narratives allow speakers to organize events into a coherent structure, typically following a sequence of beginning, middle, and end. In discourse analysis, narratives are studied to understand how individuals and groups construct meanings and identities through storytelling. Narratives can also be powerful tools for persuasion, shaping how events or issues are framed and understood by audiences. Personal narratives. Personal narratives are stories individuals tell about their own experiences. These narratives often serve to construct personal identity, present moral lessons, or communicate social roles. In discourse analysis, personal narratives are examined to explore how speakers position themselves within broader social and cultural frameworks. Example: in an interview, a job candidate may tell a narrative about overcoming adversity to highlight their perseverance and dedication. Discourse analysis would look at how the narrative structure supports the candidate's self-presentation and aligns with societal values like hard work. Institutional narratives. Institutional narratives refer to stories constructed by organizations, governments, or media to promote certain ideologies, policies, or cultural norms. These narratives often serve to legitimize authority, construct collective identities, or justify social practices. In discourse analysis, studying institutional narratives helps reveal how power is maintained or challenged through storytelling. Example: a government might construct a narrative of national unity and resilience in times of crisis, framing citizens as united and heroic in the face of adversity. This narrative supports a particular vision of patriotism and social cohesion. Point 2. Narrative structures in discourse. The structure of a narrative refers to how the elements of a story are arranged to convey meaning. In discourse analysis, common narrative structures include Lebow's model, narrative evaluation, and intertextuality. These structures guide how stories are built and how they function within discourse. Lebow's model of narrative structure. One influential model in discourse analysis is William Lebow's six-part model, which identifies the key components of a well-formed narrative. Each component plays a distinct role in how the story is organized and understood. Abstract: a brief summary of the narrative's purpose or content. Orientation: information about the setting, characters, and context of the story. Complicating action: the core events or conflicts that drive the narrative forward. Evaluation: the narrator's commentary on the significance or meaning of the events. Resolution: the outcome or conclusion of the complicating action. Coda: a closing statement that brings the narrative back to the present or reflects on its implications. Example: in a courtroom testimony, a witness might provide an orientation by describing the scene of an accident, offer a complicating action by recounting what happened, and give an evaluation that emphasizes the seriousness of the event. The resolution would describe the aftermath, and a coda could reflect on the long-term consequences. Narrative evaluation and ideology. In discourse analysis, narrative evaluation refers to how speakers express the significance or value of the story they are telling. The evaluation often reflects the speaker's attitudes, beliefs, or ideologies. Through evaluation, Narrators can position themselves morally or emotionally within the narrative and influence the audience's interpretation of events. Example: in a political speech, a leader might evaluate their country's past struggles as noble sacrifices, casting the current government's policies in a positive light. This evaluation shapes the audience's understanding of history and legitimizes the speaker's position. Intertextuality in narratives. Intertextuality refers to the relationship between one narrative and other texts or stories. In discourse analysis, examining intertextuality reveals how narratives draw on or respond to existing cultural or historical discourses. Narrators may invoke shared cultural stories, symbols, or historical events to connect their narrative to broader societal themes. Example: a politician might reference well-known historical events, such as the civil rights movement, to position their policies within a larger narrative of social justice. This intertextuality strengthens the speaker's argument by linking it to established values and ideals. Point 3. The functions of narratives in discourse. Narratives in discourse serve multiple functions, from identity construction to persuasion and legitimation. Discourse analysts explore how these functions shape the speaker's goals and the audience's understanding. Identity construction. Narratives play a crucial role in how individuals and groups construct their identities. Through storytelling, people position themselves within specific social categories, express personal values, and align with cultural norms. In discourse analysis, the focus is on how narrative structure contributes to the ongoing process of identity formation. Example: in a refugee's personal narrative, the storyteller may frame their journey as one of survival and resilience, constructing an identity as a survivor who overcame immense challenges. The structure of the narrative, with a clear beginning, pre-migration hardships, middle, journey, and resolution, new life in a host country, reinforces this identity. Persuasion and framing. Narratives are often used in discourse to persuade audiences by framing issues or events in specific ways. By constructing a coherent and emotionally compelling story, speakers can influence how the audience interprets a situation, prompting them to adopt a particular stance or take action. Example: in environmental activism, narratives about the catastrophic impact of climate change often frame the issue as an urgent crisis. The story's structure, cause, crisis, and possible resolution is designed to persuade the audience to support environmental policies or changes in behavior. Legitimation of power. Narratives can be used to legitimize authority and reinforce social hierarchies. By constructing stories that emphasize tradition, success, or moral superiority, institutions and individuals in power can maintain their position. Discourse analysis of these narratives uncovers how language is used to justify control or dominance. Example: a corporation may use a narrative of innovation and progress to legitimize its leadership in the tech industry. By framing its history as one of continuous advancement, the company reinforces its authority and status in the market. Point 4. Examples of narrative structures in discourse analysis. Example 1. Political narratives of national identity. In political discourse, narratives about national identity are often structured to emphasize a shared history, collective values, and common destiny. These narratives typically follow a structure that frames the nation's past as a period of struggle, the present as a time of overcoming challenges, and the future as a hopeful era of unity. Discourse analysts might examine how politicians use this narrative structure to strengthen national identity, align their policies with national values, and legitimize their leadership. Example 2. Media narratives in crisis reporting. In media discourse, narratives about crises, such as natural disasters or political scandals, are structured to dramatize events and engage audiences emotionally. The narrative often begins with an orientation that sets the scene, followed by complicating actions that highlight the crisis's severity, and concludes with a resolution or evaluation of its significance. Discourse analysis of these narratives reveals how media outlets frame crises to influence public perception, often focusing on specific victims or heroes to guide the audience's emotional response. Example 3. Personal narratives in legal testimony. In legal discourse, personal narratives are frequently structured to present a clear and persuasive account of events. Witnesses may follow a chronological structure that begins with an orientation to the situation, introduces the complicating action, the event in question, and concludes with a resolution. The witness's evaluation of the events can provide emotional or moral weight to their testimony. Discourse analysis of courtroom narratives highlights how storytelling techniques are used to establish credibility, construct truth, and influence the outcome of legal cases. Conclusion. Narrative structures in discourse analysis provide a powerful framework for understanding how stories shape meaning, construct identities, and influence social realities. By examining how narratives are organized, evaluated, and connected to broader cultural discourses, analysts uncover the ways in which language functions to construct power, persuade audiences, and reinforce ideologies. Whether in personal, political, or institutional discourse, narratives play a central role in how individuals and societies make sense of their world, using language to connect events, express values, and define their place within a larger social context. Frequently asked questions. What are narrative structures in discourse analysis? Narrative structures in discourse analysis refer to how stories are organized and function within communication. They encompass the sequence of events, character portrayals, and framing of conflicts. Studying these structures helps researchers understand how language shapes reality, conveys ideologies, and reinforces or challenges social norms in various contexts, including personal storytelling, media, politics, and institutional communication. Why are narratives important in discourse analysis? Narratives are central to human experience as they allow individuals to make sense of events, construct identities, and convey meaning within specific social and cultural contexts. In discourse analysis, narratives are examined to uncover how speakers and groups use storytelling to organize events, persuade audiences, legitimize authority, and shape social reality. What is the role of personal narratives in discourse analysis? Personal narratives are stories individuals tell about their own experiences. They serve to construct personal identity, communicate social roles, and present moral lessons. In discourse analysis, personal narratives are studied to explore how speakers position themselves within broader social and cultural frameworks, often reflecting societal values and norms. How do institutional narratives function in discourse? Institutional narratives are stories constructed by organizations, governments, or media to promote ideologies, legitimize authority, or justify social practices. These narratives often serve to maintain power structures, construct collective identities, or shape public perception. Discourse analysis of institutional narratives reveals how storytelling is used to reinforce or challenge power dynamics and social norms. What is Lebow's model of narrative structure? William Lebow's model identifies 6 key components of a well-formed narrative. Abstract. A summary of the narrative's purpose or content. Orientation. Information about the setting, characters, and context. Complicating action. The core events or conflicts that drive the narrative forward. Evaluation. The narrator's commentary on the significance of the events. Resolution. The outcome or conclusion of the complicating action. Coda. A closing statement that brings the narrative back to the present or reflects on its implications. Lebow's model helps discourse analysts understand how narratives are structured to convey meaning and influence the audience's interpretation. How does narrative evaluation reveal ideological perspectives? Narrative evaluation refers to how narrators express the significance or value of the story they tell. This evaluation often reflects the narrator's attitudes, beliefs, or ideologies. Through evaluation, speakers position themselves within the narrative and influence the audience's interpretation of events. For example, a political leader may evaluate historical struggles as noble sacrifices, shaping the audience's perception of the nation's identity and legitimizing current policies. What is intertextuality in narratives, and why is it important? Intertextuality refers to the relationship between one narrative and other texts or stories. In discourse analysis, examining intertextuality reveals how narratives draw on or respond to existing cultural, historical, or social discourses. Narrators may invoke shared cultural stories or symbols to connect their narrative to broader societal themes, thus strengthening their message and influencing the audience's understanding. How do narratives contribute to identity construction? Narratives play a crucial role in constructing personal and group identities. Through storytelling, individuals and groups position themselves within social categories, express values, and align with cultural norms. For example, a refugee's personal narrative may frame their journey as one of resilience, constructing an identity as a survivor. Discourse analysis examines how the structure of such narratives contributes to ongoing identity formation. How do narratives function in persuasion and framing? Narratives are powerful tools for persuasion, as they frame issues or events in specific ways to influence the audience's interpretation. By constructing coherent and emotionally compelling stories, speakers can prompt the audience to adopt a particular stance or take action. For instance, environmental activism narratives often frame climate change as an urgent crisis, using a structure designed to persuade the audience to support environmental policies or behavior changes. How do narratives legitimize power in discourse? Narratives can be used to legitimize authority and reinforce social hierarchies. By telling stories that emphasize tradition, success, or moral superiority, institutions and individuals in power can maintain their position. For example, a corporation may use a narrative of innovation and progress to legitimize its leadership in the industry. Discourse analysis uncovers how such narratives justify control and dominance. How are political narratives of national identity structured? Political narratives of national identity often emphasize a shared history, collective values, and common destiny. These narratives typically frame the nation's past as a period of struggle, the present as overcoming challenges, and the future as a hopeful era of unity. Discourse analysts study how politicians use this narrative structure to strengthen national identity, align policies with national values, and legitimize their leadership. How do media narratives shape public perception during crises? Media narratives about crises, such as natural disasters or political scandals, are structured to dramatize events and engage audiences emotionally. They often follow a narrative structure that includes setting the scene, orientation, highlighting the crisis's severity, complicating action, and providing a resolution or evaluation of its significance. Discourse analysis of these narratives reveals how media outlets frame crises, focusing on specific victims or heroes to guide the audience's emotional response. How do personal narratives in legal testimony influence court cases? In legal discourse, personal narratives are structured to present a clear and persuasive account of events. Witnesses may follow a chronological structure, starting with an orientation, introducing the complicating action, the event in question, and concluding with a resolution. The evaluation provides emotional or moral weight to the testimony. Discourse analysis of courtroom narratives examines how storytelling techniques are used to establish credibility, construct truth, and influence legal outcomes.